Hey there. If you're ready to experience fulfilling relationships and friendships, this episode is for you. If you've ever been in a conversation with someone, even a person you just met, and the conversation feels effortless and flows through mutual interest and understanding, you've likely experienced interpersonal chemistry. Interpersonal chemistry is that sensation when things just sort of click with the other person. This experience results when our body language and brains subconsciously synchronize with another soul. It's that kindred spirit sense that we get with instant connection, attraction, and friendship. This is the chemistry that we're after when we seek friendship and fulfilling relationships. But how exactly do we build sustainable and fulfilling relationships and friendships once we connect with these kindred spirits? I know how frustrating it is to crave meaningful and rewarding relationships and to feel like you're never going to fully experience them. So many people I cross paths with these days are so ready to find their people and finally enjoy good friendships. I'm glad that you're here with me today, and I cannot wait to tell you how simple it is for you to begin right now, wherever you are in your life. If you're ready to personally succeed in experiencing blessed friendships, you don't want to miss today's show. In today's episode, you'll gain insights into what's at the foundation of friendship building. You'll hear about my own breakthroughs in experiencing satisfying relationships, and you'll learn 3 tips to improve meaningful engagement and develop fulfilling friendships. And stick around until the end to hear news about the summer and fall schedule, as well as retreat plans that are in the works. Do you crave better self-esteem and confidence but feel stuck in a fog of uncertainty? If you're ready to get clear on your future and plan for personal success, this show is for you. I'm Jennifer DeBellis, award-winning author, speaker, and life coach. I show women like you how to cut themselves free from worry and self-doubt to confidently fulfill their greatest desires. Ready to restore your inner warrior? Then turn off those distractions and tune in to this next episode. So how exactly do we build new, fulfilling friendships and revive some of the current ones that we have? Though it's obvious, we really need to get out there and have some face-to-face interactions and connections. There's so much that we just can't do if we're hiding behind our screens all the time, and worse, never even hearing each other's voices. So believe it or not all meaningful and fulfilling friendships are driven by good conversation alone. So talk isn't always the most important part of interaction. Yes, you did hear me right. Sometimes talk is not the most important part of interaction, or there are also times where talk isn't even the point of the interaction. And this is where relationships start to actually get overstrained, when we're just always in talk mode and we stop doing things together and living life together. And we feel like that default connection that we have to have is just getting together for coffee or getting together for a meal. And like that is the event. And all the talking that happens is the event. And don't get me wrong, there's a place for that type of interaction. If we're only limiting ourselves to these types of interactions, you can see how slowly we'll get off path in really making those fulfilling friendships work or developing new ones to begin with. Now consider how enriching it is when we connect with others as we play together or maybe solve something together or we build or we plan something. We actually learn so much more and quicker about people when we interact with them beyond small talk and conversations that are sometimes built around talking points that often feel more like interviews than intimate interactions with someone else. And I've learned far more about people and my interest in being friends with them through witnessing how they respond to fun, to group dynamics, even we're talking about one-on-one types of dynamics, conflict, and how they react under pressure or maybe when things just aren't going the way that they expected they would go. I mean, think about it. How many times were you 100% sure, like you really liked and clicked with someone, and then you witness the way they act or react in a certain way in real time, and you think, like maybe I don't jive with this person the way I thought I did. And this is one of the reasons why texting and talking over the phone with someone can only carry a new and existing relationship so far. When it comes to new relationships, this is that spot where we get stuck and we often prolong what keeps us in a superficial cycle. And it many times feels like once we finally do get to see the real colors of that person, we're like, God, they just catfished me because we weren't engaging in enough interactions that were allowing us to see that individual in action. Like it's really easy to, say we're going to be a certain way or say we are a certain way. And then we get placed into a situation, that person doesn't act the way they said they were. And the same goes for us too. Sometimes we demonstrate to someone else that we're not good friend material based on how we represented ourselves the moment that we actually get put into action. And then all of those character traits get tested. So there are 3 surefire ways that I rely on to meaningfully engage with new people or people that I already know and enjoy spending time with. Number 1 is you need to join and engage in like interest groups and activities. Again, everything I'm talking to you about today can just be you and one other person, or it could be you in group dynamics. So don't limit yourself and think that this only applies to group dynamics. I'm going to primarily talk about the group dynamic model, but everything can be viewed if you're just thinking about a one-on-one exchange with just one other person. Doing fun or even challenging activities together can be equally, if not more, enriching and lead to long-term friendships. I'm reminded when I was thinking about this episode, I was trying to think back. I have so many experiences that I have to share, but I just thought about one because one of my love languages is fun. I like to have fun, and I like to laugh. I like to make people laugh, and I love to do activities. So you've probably heard me say this in other episodes. So I love to go and play with people. And it doesn't have to be sports. Like there are so many activities that we can do together that don't involve a sport, but I do like to be outdoors and I do like outdoor sports. And so years ago, I joined a softball league at my church, and I didn't play softball in school. And so I knew enough about some of the rules, but I had to really learn the game firsthand. And it was the first time I was learning it as an adult. And of course, I was in the prime of my life. I was picking up on things really fast. And I loved the game. I loved the game, and I loved the group of individuals that I got to play with. And of course, they're all from my church. And a lot of the women were involved in different types of ministries or different types of groups that I also was connected with in the church. And so it was this really cool kind of like extension of something that we got to do and have so much fun together. Even now I'm thinking about them. Been dealing all this week with a heat wave that's moving through Michigan. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there were days where we had to go and play in 100-degree weather like we've been experiencing now. And now I go outside and I'm like, do I want to go for a walk or can I go sit back in the air conditioning? But back then it was like, you couldn't keep us away from each other. You couldn't keep us away from the fun. And so by doing those fun, meaningful, liked interest things together, it really brought us closer together. Like, even though I don't even go to that church anymore, I'm not in leadership there, I'm not in those groups, I still keep up with some of these individuals. I still get to run into them at grad parties or weddings or different types of community events. And we just pick up like there's been no lost time. And, there's a couple of them that I actually still see on a regular basis. And so that's a really cool thing that came out of that. But one of the things I was thinking about when I was thinking about sharing this story was that the conversations that flowed from these were far more fulfilling than anything that we ever accomplished just sitting on a sofa together. So there were times that our relationships, because we strengthened those bonds over time, that we would sit on a sofa, whether it was at somebody's party or at the church after a service, where we would sit on sofas for hours and talk. And don't get me wrong, there is a place for that. But what I'm trying to talk to you about today is to not just fall into that default mold, like that's the only way we can live. And that's the only way we can have friendship, is if we're just sitting around and we're just talking for hours and hours and hours. You might be a person who doesn't have that much talk in you. And so now what do you do if you're like, oh my God, I can't be that person for anybody. How am I going to have friends? Well, friendship doesn't quite work that way. And I'm sure if you start talking to other people about what I'm talking to you about today, they'll confess the same thing. Like, yes, I'm really struggling because people don't have the same amount of time anymore to just sit around and do those types of things, or the interest to want to just sit around and do those things. And again, there's a time and a place for it. They don't want to always, every time they finally get a babysitter, or they finally get the universe to align their schedules to be like, okay, now I want to go from being stuck in my house to now go sit and be stuck in someone else's house just talking. That's one really important consideration here, is all that meaningful engagement and that fulfilling engagement that comes out of that. And I also want to mention another layer to this, which is don't skip the trip after the game to get ice cream or coffee if you can help it. Because it's really like that energy and that fun camaraderie follows you into these spaces. And then you do get to sit down and you do get to talk to people, and you move beyond maybe some of those more surface types of engagements to those more fulfilling and meaningful conversations. And that is over the course of patterns of repetition and coming together over and over again. That is exactly how friendship is formed. We got to get out of this default mold thinking that friendship is going to be that just that instant chemistry that I opened the episode with. Like, it's amazing when we get that interpersonal chemistry that happens, but that also has to be nurtured. Like, you might have that feeling, but if you don't pursue that and continue to cultivate that with that person, it's going to be a one and done type of thing. And that's counterintuitive to the way relationships and friendship works. Friendship has to be repeated connection and repeated interactions. And so we really have to keep showing up and finding different ways to show up in maybe the same environments with the same people, or maybe with the same people in new and different environments, and changing it up. You know, if it's a group dynamic, you don't always have to have the same group that gets together all the time. Really interesting things will happen when different individuals on different days get together with each other. And that is really how just amazing long-term relationships start to deeply root themselves into healthy soil. And like I mentioned last episode, when you meet someone and you click with them and you exchange that information, you actually have to reach out to them, follow up with them, I don't know what, social media outlets you use, if you use them at all, but I don't like to use social media for a lot of things that are not professional. But one of the things I love about still having Facebook is the events. And people invite me to those events. And then I'm able to say, maybe I can get to that. Not only to support people who I want to support in the arts and different things, but also I want to see those people. Those are my people. And so it's that's just one way that I set myself up to succeed in being able to even know where am I supposed to go. I'm not going to sit and be events near me, but you can easily in this day and age keep up with your people and see where they might be going, because even if it's not their event, you can see if they're interested, or if they said they're going, then you reach out to them and be like, hey, I noticed this event that I think we would both love, and I see that you're already interested in going. Would you like to go together? And it's that very simple thing that we have at our fingertips. And that's just one example. Every social media platform has these different outlets where you can keep in touch with people that way and kind of see where all the hot activities and interest things and the people who share your interests are considering going, or actually saying, yeah, I'm going to that thing, or it's my event. Please come hang out with us. So you have to look for those new opportunities, and you have to keep attending those engagements where you connected with these people to begin with, because that connection does come through repetition over time, and you're getting to know people at that point each step of the way. So you might find also that maybe someone who you thought you were going to have a better connection with, you don't have as well of a connection with them. And maybe you're realizing that person isn't, you're part of your people group at all, or maybe vice versa. They realize that you're just not quite what they were looking for in friendship. And we have to be willing to be realistic about that stuff as well. And my second tip is consider structured gatherings. So it kind of feeds off of this number one trick. And that is literally looking for structured or themed gatherings versus going places just to hang out. Again, there's a time and a place to just hang out and curl up in a sofa next to each other and sipping your tea, your coffee, your wine, whatever your vice is, and just soul connecting, talking about whatever you want to talk about, whatever is meaningful to you, and engaging and really connecting with that person. But when you go places where you're having this quality time over quantity, the dynamics start to shift very quickly. And something sometimes that sitting around and filling the silence with over talking actually gets boring. It sometimes becomes awkward. It can start to feel transactional, and we're just going through the motions, we've got to talk about these different things that are almost on a checklist. Say, okay, we've got to move through this. And I know some of us have to go through different family gatherings or work events and things like that, that we kind of have to work through some of this transactional stuff and, coexist in spaces that maybe we're not like, ooh, I'm super excited to be here. These are my people. And, I'm saying like, okay, so you've got to get through those things, but that's not the same as having these fulfilling friendships and these long-term relationships that have really good root systems. Is we don't want to feel like we're going through motions or we're transactional, even with the very first questions that we ask people, because we don't want the other person opposite us to just fall into this default where they're just like subconsciously answering questions. They're not there. Right, where they just go into like autopilot. They just hit cruise control and they know what they have to say to get through this conversation. And the one thing that I've been thinking about a lot, and this happened recently, is that sometimes like just being in a place where it's not really structured and the whole focus is just talking, and there's already maybe like heated things going on around us, maybe in politics or in our interpersonal spaces or communities, is that this talk, an emphasis on this, that's the focus of the event, is just talking and catching up, is that sometimes it can start to get into these conflicted areas and force us into uncomfortable topics. Not to say that there isn't a time and a place that we should be able to have very deep, maybe like controversial conversations with people. But when we're trying to have these just meaningful interactions where friendships are developing and we're developing them, it's like sometimes we don't want it to get into these areas where we're like, I'm not ready to talk about with this with this person, or I don't even know how to fully reconcile my thoughts on this hot topic right now, so I don't want to talk to anybody about it. And, it just becomes this very uncomfortable thing. And then we start to withdraw. But I want you to think about this maybe from a little bit different perspective here, and think about just the awkwardness of it and how these conversations kind of get pushed along. So think about how this happens when one person in a conversation really, really tries to like move an awkward conversation along, and it ends up unintentionally making things more awkward or more uncomfortable for everybody involved. And it's like that really simple thing. It's like a very slippery slope. And if you just spend too much time dancing on the edge of this slope, it's going to be a landslide and everybody's going to be going over the edge. And this is when those activity-related gatherings where we actually get to do things with others often lead to more fulfilling friendships. I mean, think about it. We click well with other like-minded and like-interested people. So at a very foundational level, that is like life hack number one. If you just set yourself up to be like, okay, I am just going to naturally, organically click better with like-minded and like-interested people. I know in a utopic world, we could have all of that come together in a perfect universe, but we can create very structured opportunities and instances where we get to thrive in these environments with these exact individuals, with our people. It doesn't matter if it's for a half hour, if it's for a week-long retreat, it doesn't matter. We are setting ourselves up to succeed right away. And of course, don't get me wrong, we can get in the way and we can sabotage all of that. But when you consider that what you like doing, or even what you're good at, that's where your people are already hanging out. And they're just waiting to enjoy time with other like-minded, like-interested souls just like you. And so when we kind of think about it that way, it's really exciting because it's an invitation to get out there and to get plugged in into these very spaces that are intentionally going to start fulfilling our needs right away, or they're setting us up to have our needs met in these spaces because all the resources are there. And I want you to also not underestimate these themed groups or events or outings. So like sometimes people have themed events where you have to dress a specific way, or there's a specific theme or focus, or you think about like book clubs. That's a very basic, easy thing where, they're picking the books and there's so many different book clubs. And so you got to find the right one also. Like if you don't like romance and psychological thriller is your thing, like obviously if you get set up in a romance novel book club, you might want to rethink that and find your group that would be better fitting for you. And the third trick is when you don't see or see enough of the types of gatherings that you know that you need and other people who crave the same exact types of meaningful relationships and friendship building that you do, create them. Create those gatherings that set you and others up to enjoy time together. It is sometimes just that simple. And you don't have to do this big thing. You don't have to go big or go home. You can do very small things. Again, it could be a small group. It could be one-on-one. It could be in your home. It could be like at a coffee shop that's free. You don't have to rent out venue spaces, although you can. You don't have to set things up that are super grandiose. You can do everything in between. You do whatever fits your needs, maybe your budget. And a great example of this coming to mind is like, if it doesn't exist, create it, is when I went back to college. You may have heard me say this over a few episodes, that I co-founded this writing club. So we had a college writing club. I wanted to get plugged in. I wanted to meet people. I was just at a time in my life where I needed good friendship and I needed like-minded, like-interested individuals. I knew that I might have been a little bit older than some of my peers. And so I wanted to create a space that didn't exist, and I did. And it was this amazing, amazing group that incorporated all these other outside interests. Like, it brought together artists and musicians and, playwrights and all of these, and actors. And it wasn't just writers and poets. And it was this really cool group of individuals. And one of the things, like, obviously the college gave us space to host events and stuff and host meetings, but we started doing like pop-up coffee shop readings, and we'd have like just open mic, just treat it like an open mic. We didn't have any type of like paid headliner or whatever, but we would meet the coolest people in these coffee shops also, who would just hop in just to listen, or someone would be like, oh my God, I want to participate. And it was just this amazing experience. And the coffee shops were always very welcoming to us. They gave us the space. We were patronizing them by buying their products. And it was just this great thing that literally was free, because we would have paid for that coffee and that Danish anyway if we just met our friends just to have a nice gathering that night. But we created this very themed thing, and that carried me into other areas in the literary community, and it taught me so many things as well. And I don't want to digress into that, but to say, like, we built this amazing thing and people came. But I want to say that we were very intentional, and we planned out those actual gatherings. So we had plans, and I'm going to kind of get into some of how you break that down in a minute. But I want to say that, that saying, if you build it, they will come. Well, it's important to know what the reason is for building it, why you're building it, and how you hope guests will coexist in this gathering. You have to know all of those things going into it. And you should communicate the very foundational stuff to your guests so that they know what they're stepping into, so they know how to come. Not just like maybe there's a certain way they need to dress or a certain thing they need to bring or contribute, but also like, what's the energy? What's the mood? What's the reason behind coming? Like, is this going to be worth leaving the house, putting on makeup, paying a babysitter, getting a ride because I don't have a car, whatever those things are on your list? Because the last thing you want to do is be like so hungry for connection, and then it feels wasted. Like, you just go and whatever, it was transactional, it was unorganized, and you were like, I was not just looking to go sit around and listen to people talk and talk and talk. And a lot of times the conversations just get stuck on the same one or two people who are like going about, all the horrible things going on in their life. I feel like that's the mode I've been kind of stuck in a lot of times when I'm going places, or people want to know about all of my pain points. And then I feel like, oh my gosh, like, that's not how I wanted to spend this time together. I feel like there were so many more productive and fulfilling ways we could have just spent that hour or those last 2 hours. And that's another way that if we're a little more structured, we can maybe not avoid those conversations from getting started, but certainly they're not going to be the focus point, and people know that coming in. So you have kind of allies in this setting where they know, like, this is what we're going to be doing, and maybe people even have roles that they're playing in this particular gathering, and it's easier to get things back on track and get things going in the direction that the whole event is planned for to begin with, because again, you know what has to happen, and then you can get those things moving. And really, like, the thing that I ask myself, is this something that will bring me and my guests fulfillment in open ways into friendship? So that's kind of the question you have to ask yourself right at the beginning when you start brainstorming. What is it that I want to do? It's like, what do I need? What is maybe my pain point? What do other people need? And, I can think of all these different events that I've done throughout the years, even just having, like moms over without their kids. And, we do a breakfast on a Saturday when their husbands are home and we pre-orchestrate all this. And, just like that fun thing. And, you can't talk about your kids right now. And this is a kid-free zone. And, like not making it stringent, but making it kind of funny and fun and giving them a place. And then the people who do come are ready to be like, okay, we're going to play games and you're bringing your favorite game and we're going to do this, whatever. We're going to solve this mystery together, whatever it is that you're doing to just try to have some fun. We're going to play kickball in the back. It doesn't matter what it is. Your group, you decide what it is that you need, what they need, and how you think you're going to fulfill those needs. And always having your eye on why those needs exist to begin with really helps you drill down into what specifically you can do in order to meet those things. So sometimes you kind of have to move back and forth between the what, the why, and the how in order to work out all the finer details of things. So we start with that specificity. And the gathering itself, again, can be simple. It could be meeting at a coffee shop. It doesn't have to be something major. And just so you know, you don't have to buy coffee to meet people at a coffee shop. It could be free for you if you're like, I'm on a budget. I just want to see my friends. I want to catch up, or we're going to plan this thing. Maybe it's the planning committee before the actual gathering or event. That's awesome. It could be this small coffee date, or it could be this much more intentional and impactful thing that you're going to do. You're going to go out and have fun and enjoy something together. Is you have to do these three things. You have to know what exactly is the purpose. Just saying let's get together might entirely miss the point and could actually be unfulfilling in the end for people. You have to know why you're bringing everybody together. And you have to know, how will you spend the time together? How will it fulfill your and your guests' needs to experience enriched interactions? So I was reminded of how amazing these types of interactions are when I met my biracial biological sister last year. And we went to this 40 plus double Dutch club. And if you don't know what a 40 plus double Dutch club is, look it up. It's an amazing community. And I felt so, first of all, just like blessed to be able to have this insider experience into a club that I, first of all, didn't even know existed, but in a culture that I don't necessarily belong to. So I probably it wouldn't have hit my radar. I would never have known about this 40 plus double Dutch club had all these stars not aligned up for me in this way. And it was such an extraordinary concept and group of dynamic women who just literally come together to play together. And they do it. They get together once a week. And it's not always the same women who can come, but some women never miss a meeting. That's how important this having fun together is. And it was just this incredible experience, because I also want to preface that I have been in a lot of situations where sometimes women can be very catty, very competitive, and they use like the fact that you aren't maybe as good at something, or you actually don't even know how to do something, to their advantage to kind of like have a leverage up. And that's the worst feeling when you go into a community and you're trying to connect and make friendships where you feel like people are one-upping you and they're not even going to help you succeed and show you how to navigate these different interactions that they're doing and stuff. So one of the things that really stuck out to me right away was how, not just how people were treating me, but how people were treating all the other women. And we're talking about women from 40 years old to approaching 100. So there were women in there double dutching who were almost 90 years old. And they're still in there jumping and twisting around like they're still on the playground as a little girl. And it was just incredible. But the thing that stuck out to me the most was how that iron sharpening iron thing was happening, and how women, if they could see some other gal kind of like sitting on the sideline struggling with something, or they could actually see them like they couldn't get into the double dutch or whatever, they would go and they would help them succeed. And they would just do it with them, right? It was just this amazing, it just felt like if I could come up with the perfect mentorship program in action, this was it. And here I was experiencing it. And it was just this incredible experience of being in a community that is just full of love and full of acceptance. And it's just opened ways for this really genuine interpersonal chemistry and genuine connection to actually flow freely. You didn't even have to work really that hard. And I felt so welcomed and seen in this space. And for me, that is a super big pain point for me, is feeling accepted, feeling welcomed. I should say 2 pain points, and also feeling seen. So those were 2 pain points that were just met right away, very fluidly, naturally. And, I fell in love with this structure of this club so much that I'm building some of its concepts into my Restore Your Inner Warrior retreats. And so there are some changes coming to the summer schedule of the show, as well as the fall lineup and Restore Your Inner Warrior's future, as it begins to offer local and destination retreats. So that's right. I am excited to be at the beginning stages of planning a retreat lineup, and I cannot wait to announce a retreat theme and schedule, which will hopefully all come together by the time fall hits. So I'm really hoping to use these summer months to get all of these things in order to at least have a schedule that we can start working from. And of course, I am being very intentional about making sure that these retreat spaces are places that women can come and meaningfully connect and build new relationships. And girl, I don't know if you are like I am, but I really am so ready to get out there and to meaningfully connect and to have fun with women again, and just to see where that leads, and just to just have that happy heart and just feel it and carry that energy into everything else we do in our lives. I mean, it really is just this magical thing that impacts everything we touch after we've come in contact with it. So in all of this planning, I do need to take some time from recording new episodes so that I can work out these retreat details. So new releases will resume in September. I don't have the exact time yet, but I will communicate that. So if you are not following my channel or not a part of the Facebook Restore Your Inner Warrior Sisterhood group, there's a link for that in the show notes below. Go ahead and get signed up for that, or even subscribe to my email list, and I will be communicating through all these different channels on what all the different news items are as they develop. And during this summer break from actually recording new episodes, I will be building a library of episodes with shared topics, and they'll have clips in them and different excerpts from the segments, so that you'll be able to kind of like maybe pick some themed topics to follow along with. And maybe there's some episodes that you haven't seen yet, so you get to go back and find those. And I'm also working on bringing on some guests in the fall. So there's lots going on behind the scenes here. And so until we see each other again, I hope that you keep believing in yourself the way that I believe in you. Promise me, you're going to get yourself into those right spaces, and then just watch how your life transforms into the beautiful one that you crave. Well, girl, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, consider following my channel and sharing this with friends who also want to restore their self-worth and confidence. And if you're ready to get clear on your future and plan for your personal success, consider booking a one-on-one coaching call with me. Find more at restoreYourInnerWarrior.org/0 to clear. A link for this is in the show notes below. And as you go through your week, may your empowered spirit, mind, and heart guide you. Ciao.